I don't know why, man.
They shut me up.
Paradox. I don't understand why. You know, just like as far as class is concerned, okay, between liberal black folks and conservative black folks, there's a hell of a lot of overlap.
It really is.
And really what it comes down to is really party. It's really not even values, or because when I actually talk to conservatives, especially on say like Bernard Riley's, right? When I come in there, man, I start asking questions. They really don't know why they stand on what they stand on.
Yeah.
So a lot of so-called conservatives in this space, they don't even know why they're conservative.
And that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to kind of uncover towards the beginning of the program. So, BMT, thanks for coming up, man. We appreciate you, brother, man. On the other side, all right. You and Paradox, y'all can link up, man. Do y'all thing. Yeah. But we're gonna let BGS get his runway. All right. Your power's the week, old man. Go ahead, man. What you got?
It is, and you know, sometimes I do the same thing with the liberals because, like I've gone through all these phases, right? And people ask me, how come I'm politically agnostic, right? I studied under I'm sure you know who Craig Hewlett is, DC.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. I studied under Craig Hewlett for like 10 years, right? First thing he says, don't be a wingnut.
Right.
Okay. Don't be a wingnut because there's something he stuck with.
Don't let the dog wag his tail on you. Don't always. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
And what he told me and what has always stuck with me, right? Even when I was studying, because I've been studying China since '94, right? What he always told me, what he always told me is basically the left and the right only disagree on 10%. Okay, 90% of the things that matter they agree on. And for the last 25 years, I have observed that. Okay, and I hold to that. That's like I'm politically agnostic, right? I only go by what policies and the policies that each president or each candidate or each person is producing. I go by policy only, whether it's local, whether it's state, whether it's federal, or whether it's global. I go by policy only because I know somewhere down the line that these lines do cross. And just because somebody's labeled something, okay, Bill Clinton, doesn't mean that he is. Okay?
Yeah. Why do people consider Biden to be this liberal president? Why do people do that?
Because he has a big D and a blue jacket.
I know that, but forget the jacket. Just look at how his track record alone says that he is probably the most conservative president we didn't had in the last.
I would say since Reagan, probably.
Yeah, almost very Reagan-esque. Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah,
very similar. Especially the international things he had to do to kind of get the economy back.
And perhaps you have to go back to what's his name in the 1920s.
You talking about Eisenhower?
No. Before Eisenhower. Before FDR.
So there's FDR, Eisenhower.
Eisenhower was very much
Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson. Now you might have to go all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. Yeah.
Wow.
What I'm thinking.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And Eisenhower. We think that Eisenhower would have been a conservative. In some ways, he was. Okay, because he's a military man. But the thing is,
socialist. Yeah, he was socialist.
He was a socialist. He really was. He was a Fabian socialist through and through. Okay, which is why most of the socialists, most of the black socialist progressive things that we have came through him. Even from the beginning, under the integration of the armed forces, he forced that in. Okay,
but guess what? People didn't even know this. Martin Luther King comes from a Republican family, from a very conservative family, actually.
Because I'm old enough to when in my teens and 20s, I talked to old men in their 50s and 60s, right? And they were Republicans. And I couldn't understand why. And they had to sit me down and talk to me why they were actually Republicans. And they told me that when they were coming up, the Republicans were the ones that were leading civil rights.
Yeah, that's true.
They really didn't switch until Kennedy and Johnson.
The first
Johnson.
Election. Yeah, Kennedy.
Yeah. Even Nixon was a socialist up until 1972, until the collapse of the gold system. And then they had to find something different. That's like I'm reading these books on neoliberalism right now, because I want to understand this period between the collapse of the gold system and what's going on right now. So,
but would you consider yourself to be more liberal or more conservative in the sense of what kind of conversation that we're talking about? I know what your thought pattern is about the overall thing. That really there's really not nobody here that's really conservative for real, authoritarian. We live in a liberal society. That's true. You have free elections and things of that nature. You vote your politicians in. That by define its nature, freedom of speech basically denotes liberal policies. But for the sake of the conversation, I think you know what kind of context we mean it in. What do you consider yourself to be? Yeah, I'm putting them lifesavers on the wall.
Okay. If we get 5149, get a little 1%, I might lean liberal. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Even though neither side can stand me. So.
right. But I think
do you mind if he touches on the black male part?
Yeah, go ahead.
Black male go. Okay. No. I mean, it's you guys' time. I'm late, so.
No. We got time.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard what Jay Sean was illustrating.
I did.
And I don't know how much you consider how much viability it is. It is just an idea, and I know sometimes people don't want to really talk about. So you want to talk about ideas just to be kind of wax poetic.
Okay.
But
I hear the things about what black men must do, how black men must code up, how black men must think, but really people do not really realize how long it takes, how much work it takes to change any human being's worldview. Okay, you cannot train a bunch of boys in a liberal, feminist, white classroom, right, for most of their lives, and all of a sudden think they're gonna flip a switch and think a different way. I don't know where that comes from, because I struggle with that, even the pro-black sector. If we come together, if we do this, because I'm struggling with this. I just struggled with this about affirmative action, right? And they think that it doesn't matter because we're going to flip a switch and we're going to dump all these kids into HBCUs and it's just going to work. And I asked the brother, I said, how long you think that'll take? Oh, about a year. If we get enough money, it'll take about a year. I said, I live in LA, and believe it or not, USC is one of the most underrated universities on the planet. Okay. But exactly how much power they actually project. People don't realize that, right? They got a ton of money. I said it takes decades for them to actually build out their vision. Okay.
Oh, USC runs Hollywood. Yeah. They run Hollywood.
USC runs Los Angeles. Let's put it that way. Okay?
Yeah.
Period.
No doubt.
Period.
No doubt.
Okay?
No doubt.
Yeah. George Lucas came out of USC. Why do you think he's there?
John Singleton went to the film school there. Yeah, no doubt. It's no doubt.
They project power militarily, globally.
Government contract,
contracts, all the way. They run Southern California. Period. Okay, let's not get it twisted. But what I'm saying is, even with their power and their money, it takes decades for them to actually enact a vision. How do you gonna think you're gonna get all these black people together, dump a bunch of money in HBCUs and do a build out to take the place of what we would miss with affirmative action? I said, why don't you try to hold on to what's in place first, okay? Instead of trying to, I said, it took decades to try to get what you have as far as affirmative action and civil rights. Okay, if they take it away, you think you're just going to replace it tomorrow? Unless they know something I don't. Because, like I said, I'm not as in contact with white people as I used to be. Okay, so maybe white people have completely changed.
They haven't.
I can tell you. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. Like I said, I could be
you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong on that one. No.
Okay. What I'm saying is I get this, and which is one reason why I had to leave. Had to go outside of the so-called pro-black or nationalist or conscious community, right? Because I kept getting that. It kept getting the roadblocks. Okay, because it's always if we can do this, if we can do that, if we can change these people's minds. I said, because I'm reading, because my group, because I was with my group for 13 years, right? And they did all because they were experts in it. They did all the pro-black stuff. They knew more of the history than I did. They read more of the black books than I did. I said, okay, let me concentrate on outside of that, right? What does it do? How does it affect black people globally? Okay, what happens on the continent? What are the players? What's the money like? Okay, who are the people we need to talk to? Who are the players that will affect us from the outside? Okay, I concentrated on that for the last 20 years. So I'm just getting back into the black sector and the interest schemes of black, but I left that because I kept banging my head up against that wall with answers. I said the answers have to be beyond the walls where we're at. Mm-hmm. So that's why I left. So when I keep getting that point that if we do this, or if we do that, or if we do this, if we come together, my thing is, how come we don't? How come we don't come together? Why is it we having these problems? Why we have this problem with our females, with our women, right? And I could never find that out inside the conscious community, inside the black sector. So I started reading on the outside. I said, Then when I started reading this stuff, I saw a lot of stuff that nobody, especially the black elite, talk about. All the books they don't talk about. I started reading those. I said, oh shit, it's right there. Okay, this stuff is built in. Okay, how do you, if you got 20 generations of a cultural pattern built in, which is what Kenneth Clark said, okay, in his book Black Ghetto, which nobody talks about. Even today, they don't talk about Black Ghetto at all. Okay, and he said it. He said it a long time ago with the Tangler pathology, right? He said a long time. This stuff is built in. Mm-hmm. Okay. The thing is, how do you fix it? If you don't acknowledge the problem that it's there, how do you fix it? And everybody ignores it. But the thing is, that pattern keeps going and going and going, and nobody will actually point at it. Okay, why are you like this? Because when I had May, that long hour and a half thing with May, okay, going back and forth with her, she asked me why. She asked me why are black women in charge? Why do they get all the money's always dumped into them? Why is this cultural pattern happening? I told her, I said simply, during slavery and Jim Crow, a black man's life was not always certain. Okay, what was certain is a woman and her children. And so over 2 centuries, the black community has been built on a woman and her children. And as always, the women eat first. Women and children eat first. Women get educated first. They get the money first. They get the resources first. Okay. At some point, when do you understand that and deconstruct it? Because now you want men to lead. Now you want your boys to be kick ass. Now you want your boys to be educated.
Yeah, but that's not the pattern. That's not the pattern that was set forth.
It's not the pattern because nobody will acknowledge that the pattern exists.
Right. But okay. So there's two things that are sort of like simultaneously happening. So yeah, the blame is laid at the feet of the men strictly because of what is deemed as patriarchy, or what is seen as patriarchy is used as a double-edged polarity sword towards black men. It's in reverse for us. So it's used as a weapon to kind of hold all the crimes of patriarchy, but not having none of the power that patriarchy yields. So that's what you're speaking to. So yeah, it doesn't create that pattern of behavior because that wasn't what basically built our culture. That's not how we was basically raised in this particular culture as we had it now. That's not something that's realistic. And I think if somebody goes through the history, they'll start I know, but I'm saying they will start to deconstruct that and see that. But the reason why they hold on to the narratives so tough is because they could just see the symptoms that's right in front of them, and they can use those talking points to obfuscate the responsibility and not go towards what the source is, which is trying to beat down the psychological pull or the patterns of behavior that's been developed over this time since the plantation. Because nobody wants to talk about since the plantation, but literally that's what this is, since the plantation and beyond. Before black people became black people, this was a pattern of behavior that was basically put forth. So I mean, I got to jump. Paradox, do you want to stay on? Because I got to jump off, man. I just wanted to kind of give your point before we jump off. Because,
I just want to say, because I hear Jay Shine, and what Jay Shine is not new. Because like I said, I'm 60 years old, and I've heard this all my life about people, men, especially men, thinking there's a switch to turn on. Okay, you just turn on a switch, and black men's thinking will just automatically transform. And I can tell you, after 9 years of being on here, it does not work that way, man.
I can't speak for Jay Sean. I know Jay Sean can speak for himself. If I'm kind of looking at what he's saying, I'm thinking he's talking about the guys that already have the switch on. And even that switch is still kind of funky because we're going to have a lot of disagreements within that particular active group that is actively thinking. I mean, hence, you know, the Black Manosphere space. I mean, we fight it out all the time. But to know how to actually have these ideological fights, I think that's the beginning of the conversation. I think that's pretty much what he was speaking to. If I can kind of understand what Jay Sean is saying, he's just so far ahead because of that military drive to kind of get things organized. But the tough part is what you're talking about, is dealing with the patterns of behavior that's been taught culturally for millennia now. So you're talking about trying to reverse some of the things that's naturally taught and to kind of push through that and to kind of get to the other side and make a pragmatic choice, sort of like what white people do on a regular basis.
Even with their pragmatic choices, the pattern, the thing is their pattern is been set for them to win. Okay, it's been set for them, even they.
Oh, well, that, we agree with that. Yeah,
I talk to them all the time.
Oh, the game is rigged. Oh, yeah, no doubt. The game is rigged.
I talk to them all right, but if you ever want to see a confused white boy, have them talk to me. Okay.
All right, BGS, man. We appreciate you coming up, man.
All right,
coming up.
All right. Any other questions, Paradox? Or you done?
No. I want to follow up
earlier next time, man.
DC, hold for 5 minutes. I think I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
You obviously, you just dropping crazy information. I know there's one way you could say is you got to find a starting point at some point, but that's more of a business terminology in the sense. Now you and Dish say, well, you got to find a starting point. Everything is messed up. Things are very confusing, lots of deception, and then let's start. This is our base. We know what our base is. This is our starting point. That's not really people can kind of attach themselves to that. And when Jay Sean was using the example of the Tea Party, from what I gather from what you said, you probably can't use that analogy, maybe because of how the patterns are and the hardwiring is. So you can have a fantastical conversation about something, but once you come in there and sort of blow that up and say, well, you really can't produce that same pattern, even though it appears. Did I misunderstand?
No. The thing is, you understand what happened with the Tea Party. The sentiment was already there. The anger was already there.
White nationalists ain't never went nowhere.
They never went anywhere. In other words, they were ignored. And what the Tea Party did was
exactly
the billionaires that formed the Tea Party actually tapped into it. It was already there. They didn't have to change anything. They didn't have to change any minds. It was already there.
You know what I call the white nationalist party? They're like the white union party for white supremacy in this country. Yeah. Like they're literally like the checkers of when it gets too far, and when it they'll use these words. That's why the words like woke and moving to the left, like they have created these terms, busing, minorities, inner cities, this language to kind of denote where white people can clearly understand what you're talking about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they get it. When they have their discussions, they don't have to say black at all. They don't have to say Negro, African American, black people. You can say low income community. Everybody know what you're talking about. It's clear as day. So they have learned to push their language forward and been able to actually hide, in plain sight. So they done a good job. That was something that they was able to do. So when union came out, they was upset, and they basically pushed their.
I watched the Tea Party rise from ground zero right after the TARP was actually passed. Right during the Obama administration, a black guy in the White House. The banking failures and being pissed off at the so-called the bailouts, stuff like that. White people real pissed off about that. So the Tea Party, all the different factors all formed together and actually gave you the wave for the Tea Party. For black people, and I've said this before, like we have this, me and DC have this difference about Pearl. Pearl to me is just an indicator. Okay, that's all she is for me. I could care less about Pearl. But the thing is, what black men have to do, and something that I try to do with the Black Manosphere, right, is recognize where the wave is. Okay.
But BGS,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We can argue about Pearl another time. We ain't got.
Yeah, we don't got the time. The only thing I would say. Yeah, I know where you stand.
Okay.
The only reason why I push back on the Pearl thing is because you know that she was weaponized the wrong way, especially with the guys that you talked about, the guys that don't know why they're conservative and they're being conservative and they're just mad at Keisha.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go get a Pearl. You know, that kind of deal. That's not you. That's not you. Okay. That's not you. I'm just saying that leveraging her and looking at her in the context of everything is sufficient, but we still have to understand the chessboard and what we're dealing with when things are around us. So it's sort of like how Paradox can have that mind view, like, you know, I'm just having a discussion with you guys, and as long as we understand, that matters. But you understand this also, there's an audience, there are people that are listening, and they're going to filter these thoughts too. So I look at it as more of trying to fill in those gaps where I know people are going to still kind of have those questions about, well, what about this? And that's where I say, if you put it in a proper context, what you're saying, if you look at it like that, then that's accurate. But that's not how everybody was looking at her the same way as you. That's all I was saying, BGS. That's my major contention when it comes down to the way you see it. And I get what you're saying to people, but it's still, she was still weaponized in an incorrect way as far as how she was weaponized within the black manosphere.
Well, okay. The thing is, the white people didn't put Pearl into the black manosphere. The black people put Pearl into the black manosphere. Okay.
All right, we got to discuss it on that.
I know the players that did it. I know the players that. Hold on a second. I know the players that did it. I know why they did it. And I said, I told it was a dirty trick. It's going to backfire, and it did. But the thing is, I just want to make the point about. I'll make the point about Pearl. Right. Basically, Andrew Tate is far right. Okay, they basically the left, if we want to call them the left or the liberals, knew that Andrew Tate has influence, just not here but all over the planet, and you can't just take an Andrew Tate, take him out of the picture and replace him with somebody on the left. It's not going to work, right? You got to have somebody that's that's conservative, but but more middle of the road, That's Pearl. Pearl is middle of the road, right, which is what you need to replace somebody that's probably more authoritarian like Andrew Tate. That's why Pearl was necessary. And Pearl wasn't, so even though she was brought up by the people they were brought up by, the left had a lot to do with that. So the Scott Galloways, the Richard Reeves, the Brookings Institute, all those kind of folks, the left leaners, actually put her there, helped put her there.
The argument that I have with Andrew Tate is that the reason why there was so much pushback against his ideology and his influence is, at the end of the day, he will be primarily, because he lives through his father's ideals, and the way he is oriented is through his father, which is a black man. He is basically put into our classification. I know there are a lot of black people that disagree with what I'm saying, but think about what I'm saying here is that the way he disrupts the system, he disrupts it from a very innate kind of being. Like his being, it irritates white men when they talk to him. Peers don't like talking to him. A lot of these guys, Rollo, they have a problem with Andrew Tate.
They do.
And my contention is that he's basically forced into our classification. Now, I know that a lot of people say, well, he doesn't look black. I get that. I get your understanding, this and that other. What I'm talking about is the way he presents and the way he's looked at. His whole energy, the way he orients himself is not for a black man to present that way. They rather him present more like a Obama. So yeah, if you're looking at it from the, maybe indirectly, they say, well, yeah, we rather have, crispy, we rather have Wendy from the Wendy commercial, the white girl with the red hair and all this looking, homely, to talk these same talking points, but not this mongrel black dude talking to us about, being a man and all this type of shit, and then projecting that kind of that kind of strength through that kind of character, talking down on white people. You know how it was when Kevin did that. They never invited Kevin back when he checked those white women in about 4.2 seconds. It didn't take him long to do it. It was easy work because he's been doing the black women for years. So when he went over there, he shut them up in no quick order. They didn't have nothing to say. They were giving Rollo and all them boys the work. As far as what I saw, they were giving them the business.
They were,
and he came over, jumped on that, boom, 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 right at that tat. That was that, and whipped them up real quick. And yeah, Kevin, there's a problem.
Although you ain't got time to go down this rabbit hole, sir. That's I just wanted to touch on.
You brought it up. So,
No. I told you.
Your final thoughts. I'm back. Go ahead.
No. I know you got because I got time, but you don't. So that's why.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I got to remember where the thing is that now I know where it was. Okay. The thing is recognizing the wave. Okay. With me and Kevin, because I told Kevin, when he was getting started, right before COVID really hit, said, okay, the wave is coming. Okay. Get out in front of it. I was trying to tell guys, in fact, there was a lot of things negative going on. They're trying to go at Kevin, right? So I stood in the way because they said, y'all are not going to ruin this. Okay. You're not going to ruin it because I see the wave coming. And if you guys stay cool and play your position while this wave is riding, okay, the wave is gonna carry you, which it did, okay? Didn't carry us as far as it should have because of all the infight and stuff like that, but the wave did carry us, right? So my thing is just like the Tea Party did, right? Okay, what black men to do, especially is insignificant as we are as far as globally, right? Okay, find the wave, get out in front of the wave, okay? Recognize the wave, find your place in it, okay? Get your spot in it and let the wave carry you, because you cannot push the wave by yourself. Reason Andrew Tate rose up, really Kevin rose up, is because of the wave, right? He found his place in the wave. He got out in front of it. He carried the message, and it went global. Okay, Andrew Tate, that when Kevin died, there was a vacuum. Andrew Tate stepped into that spot. Okay, into that spot in front of the wave, and he started carrying it a different way. They had to get rid of him, okay? And they had to put somebody had to be put into that spot because the wave is not going away. And this stuff is just not here. It's global, okay? That's why I'm trying to get black men, especially the thinking black men in this space, to recognize their spot in the wave and stop trying to make the macro the micro. Stop trying to micromanage this. Look at the bigger picture. Because my thing, especially, and that's how come I get frustrated. And I had to go talk to Dr. T about this. I get frustrated because you work to have people look at the underlying structure and the big picture, right? Why does this thing work the way it works? And then you get people not recognizing. You show them how the machine works, and then they go the opposite way. I said, you know how the machine works, okay? Why are you coming up with this thought, and this idea when you know how the machine works? It doesn't make sense to me. And we've been here too long, and that's why I said sometimes maybe I think the Jewish said it, and the Gnostics always said, maybe I'm not the right teacher for you, okay? Because the lessons that I'm teaching are not penetrating. So maybe I'm not the person to be talking to you. Maybe you need another person. Okay. Maybe I need to put my time someplace else, because evidently what I'm saying is not penetrating. So instead of arguing with you and going back and forth with you, okay, I present the facts. If that's not good enough, I need to go put my time someplace else. Because for me, man, after really 30 years of doing this, man, it gets frustrating. Okay. Because you show the lesson, you show the mechanics, you show the wave, and people see the wave happen right in front of them. But the thing is, they still want to believe something else. I said, you know what, at this point, man, I don't know how much time I got left. I don't have time to sit up there and fight with you anymore. I'm in my 60s. I mean, I could be, Kevin, our ARC, all these people died in their 50s, right? I should not be around here to talk to you, okay? I shouldn't still be here. But the thing is, I don't know how much time I really got left. I do not have time to fisticuff and go back and forth with you about things that I think are insignificant, right? That I think are insignificant. If you can't catch on, and it's not what you want to do, it's not what you want to hear, I said, okay, cool. I'm not the right teacher for you. Go find your guru, or go become your own guru, right? Go kill God and become your own God. Okay, is Nietzsche would say, right? Okay, go kill God, become your own. Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay, I am not the person for you. So a lot of times I don't enter into these spaces anymore because I feel I'm not the right person, because what I'm saying is not penetrating, even though the stuff that I have said has come to pass, okay? Because I got a 9-year track record. If I was full of shit, people would know about it. You'd be the first person to point it out if I was full of shit.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't you know, like I said, I don't want people to get confused about what you're saying and kind of think that this is something that you're saying that's kind of like you just making a broad statement about how you feel about overall about speaking to people, and then it's not going through. Like I told you that I think that a lot of it has to do with the expectation of the audience. Maybe they have too much of that, and that, you know, sometimes they may not have enough information to kind of come with their own viewpoint to have a more nuanced conversation. To me, it's not really the disagreement as much as it is, you know, if you have the information, then you can present, and then you can say, okay, that's my perspective on what was said, and then you have your perspective on what was said, and then after that, it's just we have to see what turns out from, you know, our perspectives, and that's how I'll leave it. You know, that's how I look at it. But I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's my closing thought. It's probably longer than a closing thought, but
all right.
all right.
Cool. Go peace out, BGS. Peace out, man. And you know, your power's weako, man. Don't let people stress you out.
Yeah, and they have been.
Try hard not to, man.
All right. Peace out.
All right, Paradox, man. So we got the liberal side in, and right at 4 hours, people, we hope the program have been constructive. And at the end of the day, what me and I can honestly say this, what me and Paradox really take pride in is open thought, open